We live. Hey, Shalom. It's lagging a little bit. Lagging, yeah. Goodness gracious. Every single time. Trying to figure out how to fix that. You see all this at the bottom right here. It's crazy. Hey, Shalom, bear with us. Bear with us, bear with us. And the crazy thing is I need all these joints too. I'm gonna take this one down. I'll come back to that. All right, hey, Shalom. GMS Charlotte, back with another live lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. Before we get started, we want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who taught us the truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom, shalom. Back out here to bring it out, man. All right, so we're lagging a little bit, so have patience with us. All right, but we want to get into this topic here, news and prophecy. Babylon cannot be fixed. All right, so we got a couple of articles, news here, just to show you that, as we constantly talk about, it's a wrap for America. It's a wrap for Babylon, man. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. Unless you want to add anything, The
feed also is good now.
Okay, okay, good. Good money. All right, so let me share the screen and we'll get right to it. All right, bear with me. Let's see. Let's see, why is it not sharing?
It's sharing now.
Okay, good. All right. So, Lord willing, you can hear it. Hopefully the audio is not too grainy, too choppy. Let's get through it. All right. So the original video was about 7 minutes and some change, but it got clipped. So somebody else took it and reposted it. All right. This is from Joe Rogan's podcast. Elon Musk, I'm done. I cannot fix America. So let's listen a little bit of that.
One of the things you said when you stepped away is that you're kind of done and that it's unfixable. That, or under its current form, the way people are approaching it.
You can make it directionally better, but ultimately you can't fully fix the system. So I it would be accurate to say that even like unless you could go like super draconian, like Genghis Khan level on cutting waste and fraud, which you can't really do in a democratic country, or an aspirationally democratic country, then there's no way to solve the debt crisis. So we got national debt that's just insane, where the interest payments on the debt exceed our entire military budget. I mean, that was one of the wake up calls for me. I was like, wait a second, interest on a national debt is bigger than the entire military budget, and growing. This is crazy. So even if you implement all these savings, you're only delaying the day of reckoning for when America goes bankrupt. So unless you go full Genghis Khan, which you can't really do. So
Hold on. Bear with me.
to get us out of at a rate that allows us to pay off our debt. I guess people just generally don't appreciate the degree to which you know, the government overspending is a problem. But even like the Social Security website, this is under the Biden administration. On the website, it would say like we based on current demographic trends and how much money Social Security is bringing in versus how many Social Security recipients there are, because we have an aging population. Relatively speaking, the average age is increasing. Social Security will not be able to maintain its full payments. I think by 2032. So Social Security will have to start reducing the amount of money that's been paid to people in about 7 years.
And so the only way to fix that, robotics, manufacturing, raise GDP.
You've got to basically massively increase the economic output, and the only way to do that is AI and robotics. So basically, we're going bankrupt without AI and robotics, even with a bunch of savings. The savings, like reducing waste and fraud, can give us a longer runway, but it cannot ultimately pay off our national debt.
So what do you think the solution is to the jobs that are going to be lost because of AI and robotics, the jobs due to automation, the jobs due to no longer do we need human beings to do these jobs because AI is doing them? Do you think it's going to be some sort of a universal basic income thing? Do you think there's going to be some other kind of solution that has to be implemented? Because a lot of people are going to be out of work, right?
I think there will be actually a high demand for jobs, but not necessarily the same jobs. So, I mean, this process has been happening throughout modern history. I mean, there used to be like doing calculations manually with like a pencil and paper. It used to be a job. So they used to have like buildings full of people called computers, where the banks would like all you do all day is you do calculations because they didn't have computers. They didn't have digital computers that people do. Yeah. Well, it was just people would just like add and subtract stuff on a piece of paper, and that would be how banks would do, you know, financial processing.
And you'd
Yeah. So there's more to the video. Like I said, the original video had got clipped. All right. That's all we got from that one. But it just shows you that prophecy is true. All right. When scriptures talk about there's no healing of Babylon. All right. So the job market is cooked due to the AI and robotics, as we've been bringing out as well. Scriptures say that in Isaiah 19 as well, that there would be no work for Egypt. Can you get that real quick up?
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do.
Yeah, so this is the time where this prophecy is going to be fulfilled, where there's not going to be any work for nobody, man. All right, and that ties into the economic collapse that we all see that's coming. And we got another video to add in there. That the brother Itazawam, you know, put me on here. It goes into the real poverty line. Strategist argues it's a 6-figure number, right? So in order to maintain, what was the number, like 140,000? Yeah, and that's what you need to live. And you know, your average American is not making that type of money at all, man. So again, everything's headed to the road down the road of disaster, man. You can add anything if you want to chime in.
You know, I wanted to kind of, land back on that Elon Musk video. You know, the talking points that he was making mention of as far as the economy, the GDP, the gross domestic product, the trajectory of trying to sustain America is hinged on AI infrastructure, this digital age, right? But as you and I were discussing a few days ago, Zaquan, you know, there's this AI bubble. You know, you have the S&P 500, you have these 7 companies, the Magnificent Seven, that's pretty much holding down the GDP for America. But now people are starting to question, where's the growth at?
Right.
Like, where's the return? Eventually, as we're seeing, they're going to have to start to utilize these different systems as a means to try and show forth that these products that they're offering, the services that they're offering, is actually providing a return to investors.
Right.
You know, and eventually what we're going to see is that they replace humans.
Yeah.
You know, And then we're going to start to see that humans will become commodities through this technology, right? Which we're seeing with what the BCI, we're seeing an investment into that infrastructure. We're seeing more people investing into AI.
Yep.
You know, we're seeing people literally invest into the solidification of the beast in the earth.
That's right.
You know,
Mm-hmm. We can start. We can do Jeremiah 51 and just read down to the point. We start at the top.
Okay.
You know,
this is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse.
because all these things that are happening, this is all the judgment against America, Babylon the Great. All right, Babylon cannot be fixed. You got it.
This is Jeremiah 51 and verse 1. It reads, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind."
Yeah, that's the nuclear destruction, the destroying wind that's going to take this place out. Go ahead.
"And will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about."
Mm-hmm. These nations, the missiles. All right, total destruction. Go ahead.
"Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. And against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine. And spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts.
Mm-hmm.
Thus the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets.
That's right.
For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his power, of Yahweh of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel."
Yeah, so like the scriptures say that Israel have not been forsaken, nor Judah of his power, of the Lord of hosts, man. Because the Lord, he's remembered his people, man. Starting with the elect. Okay, he's left a remnant in his time who he's coming to deliver. Go ahead.
"Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance."
That's it. This is the time of the Lord's vengeance. America is looking absolutely terrible right now, man, on all fronts. All right, so this is the time right here that this place falls. Go ahead.
"For this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense."
Yep, a reward, a judgment. Go ahead.
"Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad."
Right. So I got this pulled in the chat right here, and it goes into Jeremiah 51 and 7. It says Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. It says a golden cup equals something beautiful, powerful, but deceptive. Being in the Lord's hand means the Most High used Babylon as an instrument of judgment. Babylon was not sovereign. Yahweh Shem Yahushua controlled events, as we see what's happening now. Golden equal prestige, wealth, glory. Cup equal vessel used to deliver judgment, right? It says that made all the earth drunken. Babylon didn't literally intoxicate nations with alcohol. Drunkenness equals confusion, moral corruption, deception, and submission. It's submission, right? And this is how America's done that through its wicked wines and philosophies, man. Right? It says how Babylon did this through military conquest, political domination, economic exploitation, idolatry, and sorcery. And it says cultural influence spreading wickedness. It says Babylon's influence reached all the earth, symbolic of his enormous power. All right. So again, as we're talking about, Babylon cannot be fixed. There is no solution. There is no answer to bring America back to the former prestige and glory. All right. We're in the midst of the downfall, so to speak. All right. We're actually watching, as we talked about last night, we're watching America fall live in real time. Read a little bit more. Read down to 11 and we'll grab the video.
Verse 8, "Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed.
Yep.
Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed.
Yeah, so like Elon was saying, there's no. He said, "I can't fix America, man.
Right.
The debt, the state of the economy. There's no going back. This is why the whole system was set up to fail. For them to usher in this new AI system, like Trump, he just ushered in what was it called, the Genesis, right? Where the AI is now in the forefront of how society operates. All right, this is what this was intentionally done. You know,
Because when you listen to these politicians and their discussions of AI, their discussions of data centers,
Yep.
data mining, their discussion is always in context of world dominance,
yes, sir.
right? But really, it's just the fact that they're controlled to pretty much usher in the NWO to fulfill the will of these elites,
That's right.
right? Verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country.
Yeah.
For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the sky.
Even to the skies, man. Her judgment, Babylon, reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies, man. So that's how you know that this place is about to get hit, man. It's about to be rewarded with the judgment of the Lord, man. Okay? Everything as we see it is at the tipping point right now, man. Everybody's on edge, the confusion, the uncertainty of the economy, all right, the distrust of the government, the powers that be, right? Like we talked about, the average, American now sees that America is under the control of the tiny hats, the race wars, all right, the deployment of these troops, all right. What was the article you had about the National Guard to throw off the was it civil unrest or whatever it was called?
You want me to just make a quick excerpt from it?
Yeah. Matter of fact, let's pull it up. Send it to me. I'll pull it up.
Okay.
While
we pull it up to Quan, can I put a quick precept just to
you got it.
This is Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. Be not deceived, Yahweh Bashim Shai is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Right? So as the Quan had brought out, the chat GPT, showing how Babylon's influence was by the will of Yahweh Bashim Shai being in the earth, as that deceitful nation, that promoted wickedness, that pretty much promoted this vibration of confusion, right? Sorcery, idolatry, right? Pretty much pushing that anti-Hamashiach spirit into the earth. This is what Babylon the Great is preparing to reap, right? The judgment for carrying themselves in this fashion in the seat of authority.
Right.
Yeah.
It's lagging again. God damn. Hold on 1 second. It's in there? Okay, yeah. I don't know why the hell. Right. So this is from Salaki. It just cut us off the feed. But anyway, let's go back. All right, let's see. We can go back. Yeah, do something about this shit. All right. Anyway, we were just in this article here before we had got cut off. This is from the Military Times.com. It says National Guard to create quick reaction forces for civil unrest. So, like I was saying before we got cut off, all right, Trump is sending these National Guards, these militia groups, and these different troops to these major cities because they're preparing for that sedition to happen. All right, they eventually they're going to crash this shit, man. So they're going to already have the troops in place to try to, quell any type of sedition, any types of revolts that may break loose. All right, so everything is moving according to the plan, right? And just reading a little bit here, it says military leaders have ordered the National Guard in every state to develop a, quote, quick reaction force of troops trained to deal with civil disturbances and riots that can be ready to deploy within just hours' notice. The latest indication of a longer-term Trump administration plans to more readily dispatch soldiers to U.S. streets, all right? Because we're in the midst of what? A police state, martial law.
This just goes to show that we are in, right, war.
Yep.
Right? They're now seeing, like I mentioned, Jaquan, they're seeing what their rulers are tied into these sex trafficking rings,
Yep.
child sacrifices. They're under the control of the tiny hats, right? So now the people are starting to revolt because what previous generations were able to do was they were able to get a slice of the pie.
Right.
Right. But now you have millennials, Gen Z, and so on. That's pretty much been put into a position where they don't have access to any of the little delicacies or freedoms to even want to buy into the quote unquote American dream. For them, it's a nightmare.
Right.
So this is going to continually be a topic of discussion as we see more job loss, as we see people struggling to pay for their basic goods and services, right? Ultimately, to the point that leads down to the establishment of the MOTB in this police state that just remains set permanent.
Yeah. There you go. That's the burden of Babylon, right? Do you have any more? Okay, I'm gonna jump to the video and we'll get into that. All right, but like we were talking about, they're already prepared for national, civil unrest.
Oh, Con, it's a little bit more in that article, Jaquan.
Okay, I'll read some more. Yep.
Let me see here. Because it made mention of the date they wanted to establish this by. If you scroll down a little bit more. A little bit more.
Yep.
Yep.
January 1st, right there. Yep. I'll read to it. So it says while Trump has sent the National Guard into cities including Los Angeles and DC, his efforts to deploy troops in other places have faced swift legal challenges. The Trump administration is blocked from sending troops into the Chicago area until at least the latter half of November. Following additional legal briefs, it says in a federal trial seeking to block a troop deployment in Portland, Oregon, got underway this week. It says the memos were sent out to the states early this month, mandate that each state and territory have its quick reaction forces operational by January 1st, 2026. All right. So we know that 2026 is going to be the year, like they showed you in the Economist magazine, right? The year of wars, plagues, famines, all right? It says to help with that goal, units will be provided 100 sets of crowd control equipment, as well as 2 full-time trainers by the National Guard Bureau. The units also will be allowed to use additional 5 days of training for soldiers to get through the inter-service non-lethal individual weapons instructor course. All right, so they're prepared to use violence. Is the points. All right, so let's go. Let's go to the next one. All right, we'll pull that up too. Let that play. So this is from Fox News or Fox Business. This came out a day ago. The real poverty line. Strategist argues it's a 6-figure number. All right, check this out.
No, I have to say, I've always thought that the national poverty line was more of a political construct, right? Designed for politicians to say we've made progress, right? And they never really truly changed lives. Oh, the poverty line is here, and you're making a grand more. We've done.
Bear with us.
Yeah,
Yeah, tab.
Everyone has brought America down. Let's bring in now Simplify Asset Management, their chief strategist, Mike Green. My man. Golly, people are going nuts. First, I just want the idea of what made you even go down this rabbit hole.
Well, what actually sent me down this, we'd actually talked about a couple of the pieces that I've done before on this, where I was just candidly horrified by the reaction that we saw on Twitter to a right-wing influencer posting a somewhat inaccurate picture of a house saying in 1950 a single income could afford this, right? There was an incredibly coordinated and messaging backlash that basically boiled down to what possible right do you have to expect this? You're nothing, right? That framework ultimately sent me down the path of saying, hey, wait a second, this is actually really missing something that people are trying to convey. And as I dug into the numbers, and I wrote this on my piece, I was candidly horrified because as somebody who comes out of the financial world, who has done very well and is incredibly appreciative for it, and whose children have been successful,
Right.
I look at this and I'm like, this is something I never really spent a lot of time thinking about.
Right.
But the minute you dig into it, you discover that there's actually a terrible story out
So maybe you were living in an ivory tower and didn't know it?
I absolutely knew I was living in an ivory tower. My life is like, very few people have this.
The real math of survival, though. So we're talking about real survival, real poverty line, child care, 32,000, housing, 23,000, food, almost 15,000, transportation, almost 15,000, healthcare, almost 11,000. Other line is 140,000, essentially.
Yeah. So the real poverty line is, you're hearing this. The real poverty line is 140,000. All right. So your average American doesn't have that. So the point is that the times that we're coming into, it's going to be damn near impossible to survive. As they're talking about in this clip, to survive in America. All right. And this is what people have to kick out just to tread above water.
Right.
You know?
And I went into a lesson, with the brother Yeshaya at Quanawaf. We were talking about the K-shaped economy. You had an economist that pretty much was Shalom Priest,
Shalom, brother. Shalom.
There was an economist that made mention of it was a K-shaped economy, where basically when you look at post-CVID, where you had basically two trajectories that kicked out of that fall from the economy. You had pretty much the haves and have-nots,
right?
Where people's income is not keeping on par with inflation versus those that are able to make gains and profit with inflation, right? Because they have the wealth to do so. But that line of people that aren't able to keep up is pretty much the bulk of these Americans, So as things continue to draw down to this point, the scriptures speak about in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter, the 12th verse, that money is a defense. What the elites are doing is stripping the defense from these people to where they can have the sustainability to be self-sufficient, right? That's the goal, is to pretty much draw these people into a state of this of being desperate.
Yep.
Right. To have to go to these elites, right, and treat them as their God. Out of these situations, these hellish conditions that they've been placed in by those very people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all strategic.
Sure. So, Priest, you want to add something in there?
Lie, I got it.
Okay, Con. So we'll go back to the video, but we're showing you that again, that the way the economy is, the way the society is shaping out, people are not going to make it, and it's all by design. All right, this is another way of how they're going to call the population. You know.
Survival, real poverty line, child care 32,000, housing 23,000, food almost 15,000, transportation almost 15,000, healthcare almost 11,000, other essentials 22,000, add in taxes. You're saying the real poverty line is 140,000 essentially.
It is very close. And I want to just be clear that 140,000 doesn't mean you are literally poor, right? We're not talking about, country poor sort of stuff. What I'm describing there is that's really the threshold at which you can cover all of the expenses without government assistance and start saving.
And like Elias Wamba says, that's upper poor.
Right.
Think about that, bro. 140K is not even really average.
Yep.
Saving, right? Start preparing for your future. That's a very, very different place than most people think it is.
Now, obviously, people hit you and saying, and you talked about this a little bit in the piece, that, hey, it's a lot different in Mississippi than it is in Manhattan.
It's a lot different in Mississippi. And what's been so interesting to me is actually the anger and frustration and resentment of that number is typically coming from people who don't have kids, right? I see a lot of young, informed, intelligent commentators like, this is absolutely ridiculous. $32,000 for childcare. And in the meantime, the vast majority of my comments that are coming in are from people who are actually in that situation saying you're 100% right. This is exactly my experience.
The lies, the housing lie, the hedonic lie. What's the housing lie?
Well, the story with the housing lie is this idea that you can afford to buy this house if you just be willing to settle. And this goes back to the piece that I wrote before. An individual had said, look, the problem is everybody expects larger houses today. They expect nicer houses today. Well, the reality is they expected that in 1955 as well. The homes that were being built at 1,100 now out saying 20% of the homes in 1950 didn't have indoor plumbing. They were all being brought up to standards of the day. If you look at that exact same house today, it is nowhere near affordable. It is impossible for most families in a place like Essex County, New Jersey, which is the area that I was responding to in the initial post. They just can't afford it. There's nothing there for them.
The optical illusion of prosperity. What's that about?
Well, we absolutely have progressed as a society,
Right.
I'm sitting on this stage wearing very nice clothes and a warm air conditioned or, warm HVAC serviced environment. My life is dramatically richer and better than my grandfather's life was. But the reality is that base level of participation, the level at which I can start to contribute and start to benefit from how society has improved, has risen alongside that.
One of my favorite guests, really great thinker, Colin Roach.
So basically what he's saying is that, the entry point to be able to succeed in society has risen to the point where it's practically out of reach.
Yep.
Especially when you consider where the tribes are, right? Where the bulk of our people find themselves in this position right now, as we're seeing the so-called Black woman is being, pretty much X'd out of jobs, things of that nature. We're seeing the displacement of wealth, right? With the passing of baby boomers, right? And they're not passing on that wealth to the next generation. We're seeing Jake literally get put into a position where their opportunity to enter in and carry on wealth, these opportunities are not being presented for them, So that optical illusion of prosperity, for him as an Edomite, is a far different lens than an Israelite.
Exactly.
It's that you're even further back, And it's by design.
Go ahead, Priest. Go ahead, Priest.
Kind of, I had a preset because pretty much what you going into is pretty much showing you the depth of the American dream.
That's it.
This is Sirach 34. I started verse 1. It says, the hopes of a man void of understanding are vain and false, and dreams lift up fools. Whoso regardeth dreams is like him that catcheth at a shadow and followeth after the wind. Because as you were talking about, the pretty much for Jake to try to, catch up and be on the same level as Edomites in this society, Trump is pretty much, made this, to the point to where that's impossible, man. All right. The thing we talked about yesterday about how they pretty much, did away with all them different type of degrees, which were mainly, degrees that Jake go into.
Yep.
You have no real trade, no real skill that you can use to help, forward yourself. Because all the things that pretty much Jake go to school for help forward, America, forward Esau's system. So as he's done away with that, Jake is realizing that there's not much else you can do except turn back to the Lord, man.
So,
All right.
Can I add one? Matter of fact, finish what you got. I add a Sirach 5. Go ahead.
It says, the vision of dreams is the resemblance of one face to another, even as the likeness of a face to a face. Of an unclean thing, what can be cleansed, and for what thing that is false, what truth can come? Because here it is, Jake has put the notion forward that look, we can make America better. All we gotta do is come together. Black economics. We gotta put our dollar together. We gotta do whatever the fuck that we tried and done. We've been there, done that. Black Wall Street, Wilmington, different Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've done it. But that was never the goal what Yahweh Shem Yahushua wanted our people to achieve here. That's why, as we brought this out years ago, when Jake got to the point to where they're able to become millionaires off the whim, that's how we knew Esau was ready to get rid of this system. Because at that point where you got Jake pretty much standing in similar waters as Esau as far as making this financial freedom bullshit go out. It's over with, man. The point.
Yeah, a lot of Jake is into financial literacy right now. Trying to extend wealth, trust and things like that. So that's how it's like you said, it's a wrap, man. When Jake start getting into that level, they getting ready to crash this shit out.
One more verse, Baba Kashah. Verse 7. It says, "For dreams have deceived many, and they have failed that put their trust in them." And this is why we always say the older generation really failed, us now, because they was the ones pushing that, go to school, get a job. If you can't go to college, go to the military, figure out how to get up top so you can get that 40 acres and a mule. But they didn't account for the latter end of what we see in America going now, man. All right. The true leaders that prepared us was the prophets of the Lord, man, because we got the full scope of what the so-called economic horizon for Babylon was, the pretty much the global impact of what is going to happen to this place and all that. So we're being prepared as we're preparing the other elect to see what the future for America is, and like you titled the video, Babylon can't be fixed, man.
That's it, man. Hey, so now, especially Jake. Now they're realizing, getting their piece of the pie was all bullshit. There's no slices available. It's moldy, It's out the way. So anyway, let's play some more. You want that Sirach 5? Oh yeah, give me that real quick. Because like you were saying, Priest, that's the essence of Sirach 5 and 7. You got it out.
Sirach chapter 5, verse 7. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord.
Yep.
And put not off from day to day. But suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth.
Yep.
And in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance.
Yeah, my favorite scripture. In thy security thou should be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. In the day of vengeance, because we see now as we're going through these articles and these videos, the security that our people trust in this place is being removed. The financial security, the job security. All right, all of that's being done away with. What are you going to do outside of that? What are you going to lean upon now? This is why the scripture said at the beginning, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord. All right. Hey, if you just don't repent and seek the Lord now, hey, it's all she wrote at this point, man.
That's right.
All right, you're going to be left to be destroyed. All right, it's time for you Israelites to get with the program. Okay, America can offer you nothing else. All right, Babylon cannot be fixed. There's no going back to how it was pre COVID. All right,
The program is reality.
that's it.
You know, like Priest had read in Sirach, the 34th chapter. You gotta wake up that dream. Romans 13 and 11. Right now, it is high time to wake out of sleep.
Facts.
You see what's going on out here. Now it is time, now more so than ever, for you to fortify your relationship with Yahweh Shem Shai. Get on his program, understand the will of the Lord, and submit to it, so that you can find favor in the eyes of Yahweh Shem Shai. Because our enemy is preparing to come in as a flood. All of these things that we're seeing set up right now are snares and traps to take these people right into the NOTB.
Oh yeah. It cost $140,000 just to tread above water. It's a wrap.
It's poverty, man.
That's it.
Responded.
Base level of participation, the level at which I can start to contribute and start to benefit from how society has improved, has risen alongside that.
One of my favorite guests, really great thinker, Colin Roach, responded. And then you respond to his response, and you said, there's never been a better time to be born into human existence than this very instance. And the only time is the next instance, right? On this, we agree. But is that really true anymore? I mean, that was always, it always felt like that was the American promise. But is that the case right now? Because again, going back.
Yeah, that's all bullshit. People know that's bullshit, man. You know?
American promise, but is that the case right now? Because again, going back to what I see on social media, particularly from young folks, you know, they'll show a picture of some old couple dancing, say, yeah, they're dancing because they sold their house for $2 million they bought with a bag of apples. You know, a lot of people don't believe this is true anymore.
This is one of the challenges, right? You try to speak an element of truth and people immediately attack you as ignoring all born. And the only time we have an incredible capacity for affection and innovation and social support of each other. Right now, we're just caught in a framework in which we're not doing that. And people are trying to say, if you're talking badly about the current situation, you aren't appreciative and you don't understand how much better it is than when we were slaves in
Right.
serfdom. There's absolutely truth to that.
The world's first titanium nonstick.
That was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's over, man. What else? How more plain can we make it, man? It's a done deal.
Right.
Because his perspective is in connection. Could I get you grab it right quick?
Yeah, you got it.
The 5th chapter. Right. His outlook, you know, because there is, you know, like what you were saying, you know, it is true, you know, to a degree. You know, when you consider, you know, where these Edomites are preparing to take the world, this wealth transference, right? If you are of that ilk of Edomites that are actually going to prosper from this situation, this is a fantastic time for your ass to be born.
Right.
You know, because in their minds, they're preparing to enter into their NWO. They're preparing to solidify their pseudo kingdom.
Yep.
You know, in their perspective, they think this is the best time to be an Edomite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the same way how we feel in the spirit, this is the best time to be an Israelite. Because now it's our salvation there than when we believe.
That's it.
You know, I just wanted to grab something right quick. This is James chapter 5 and verse 1.
There you go.
Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. See, he ain't thinking about this.
Yeah.
Right? Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, is worthless. And the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire.
Right.
Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. These guys have amassed all of this wealth, right? As again, the K-shaped economy. You know, you see it's literally the graph literally looks like a cake, where it's just that motherfucker just going sky high.
Mm-hmm.
You hear Trump talk about, you know, we have all of these record-breaking numbers in the market. That they ain't talking about regular people. They talking about the niggas that's having, the people that really got it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. The elites.
The elites. Verse 4. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you, kept back by fraud. Christ, speaking of the tribes, man.
Yep. Slaves.
The slaves. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. So the Lord is hearing the cries of his people, right? And he's preparing to deliver us. So the riches that these devils have amassed, it ain't going to be of any benefit to them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Verse 5, ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and then wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter.
Yeah, to live one time means to live in luxury. You know, like it tells you Isaiah 47. You know how this place lives carelessly. You know, these Edomites have amassed all the wealth. You know, it's blessing going into the sword, but also the fatness of the earth, man. You know, the resources, the money. All right, go ahead. Oh,
Todd.
there was a little bit more. Come on.
I got a precept. Just go into detail what you were saying as far as how Esau is living, you know, that lavishly like that. Real quick, this is Wisdom of Solomon 2 and verse 6. It says, "Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth. Let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, and let no flower of the spring pass by us. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they are withered. Let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion, and our lot is this." You know, and that's kind of like what the dude was saying in the video. Like you said, it's only that upper echelon, you know, group of Edomites that really are enjoying the true, you know, wealth of their kingdom, while they pretty much, you know, left the rest of their nation as well as the rest of the other nations, mainly Jake, to fend for themselves. Hey, they're hoarding everything onto themselves, and like you said, they think they're about to set up this new world order and pretty much, you know, right off into the sunset, man. You know,
Right. Exactly. Corner walk, Shalom, Mark. You want to add anything?
I got a quick precept. It's Proverbs 10 and verse 3. It reads, "The Lord will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but he casteth away the substance of the wicked." Right. So we're seeing the whole system itself, as Priest said, it's established in order to keep the rich, right, and to allow them to keep climbing. But everybody else that can't meet that threshold, you're going to continue to fall down into that subjection, man. So what we're seeing is the system being destroyed, where everybody is losing all access to the money, all access to, right, the capitalist system, right? But the Lord is going to protect, right, those who call upon him, man. Right. The point being that you have to get your house set in order under Yahweh Bashim Yahushai instead of setting your house in order under Esau, man.
That's it, man. Regardless, hey, the Lord said that Isaiah 65 that his servants was going to eat and have a drink. And we believe that. All right, that the Lord's going to provide in the time where they hoard the resources, when they cut off, you know, the food supply and shit like that, and they start rationing out food. You know, the times that we're entering into, the famines, the shortages, right? The Lord's going to provide for his remnant, his elect, right? Now, I want to segue into this, because we talked about this briefly last night at the midweek camp. All right, this article is from newstarget.com. It says, "Will 2025 be the year that MAGA broke apart?" So me, myself, and the El Yeshawamba, we did a couple lessons as well, going into the MAGA divide and how these right-wing Edomites no longer believe in Trump. All right, his whole MAGA base is falling apart. All right, because of the Epstein scandals. All right, his connection with pedophilia and shit. All right, the trafficking of kids. you know, all the madness that you see that's going on within the White House right now, man. So a lot that whole Epstein situation and the trafficking and the you know, the immigration crisis is going on with the troops being deployed to the major cities is causing a big uproar and a shift amongst these you know, so-called American people, right? Now, just going back into it here. All right, it says, let's read this again. It says, what if President Donald Trump, America First agenda was merely a smokescreen for him to obtain power, wealth, recognition, and fame? What if he leveraged conservative political platforms and their talking points to his advantage, but he never truly believed any of it and wasn't guided by any principles at all, right? It says, what if Trump rode a wave of populist sentiment, painting himself as an upstart outsider to the political establishment, right? Because he rode with that whole, yeah, we got to get the deep state, you know, yeah, Christian Nelson, we here to take down the deep state and all that bullshit, and people, they believed it, right?
Which is fucking stupid, because the nigga already had one term. This nigga's second time. You tell me just
Yeah, right.
I ain't know nothing was going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Nigga, he was a part of it.
Exactly. It says, what if Trump rode a wave of a popular sentiment, painting himself as an upstart outsider to the political establishment, while covertly working to protect the political elites and his friends all along? What if conservatives' wishful thinking was tied up in a code of personality, because he was pushed as the white savior, you know, for America? It says, and they were pushed further from principle. What if real leaders of principle were excommunicated from the MAGA Trump movement once they were no longer useful to Trump's rise to power? What if 2025 was the year MAGA broke apart and Trump's cult of personality exposed? And that's what's happening now. Okay? A couple points here, we'll grab scriptures. It says, key points. Donald Trump has launched vicious personal attacks against Representatives Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie for their efforts to release the complete Epstein file client list. This behavior represents a stark betrayal of core MAGA promises to expose elite PDF file rings and drain the swamp. Trump's alignment with AIPAC and foreign interests contradicts his America First rhetoric. Exactly. And this is what's pissing off, you know, his MAGA base, because now they come to that conclusion that Trump was never for America. He was always about the agenda of the tiny top. All right. All your politicians are all bought and paid for by AIPAC. All right. To further the agenda of Israel. It says the escalating conflict reveals a fundamental division between the MAGA brand and true America First principles. It says Trump's petty name calling and childish behavior demonstrates a leader increasingly disconnected from the movement that elevated him. It says Trump's petulance towards leaders of principle shows that he is only interested in exploiting people for his own gain. And we'll come back and read some more of that. But if brother's got a precept or not, we'll bring it out.
Kind of got one real quick.
Yep.
It's Sirach 14 and verse 7. And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly. And at the last, he will declare his wickedness. Right? So Trump ran on this, you know, Bible thumping Christian rhetoric.
Yep.
But now people are seeing that he's done that heel turn. Right? He's putting himself in that dictator seat that, you know, he's pretty much a hand of the small hats, man. Right. So at this point, the people it's being revealed, but it's too late. Right. The steps have already been put in motion to put this country as a pretty much a representative of these Israelis, man.
Yeah. He conned your ass. You know, he got him. Right. People bought into it and they got bamboozled. You know, you got it out.
This is Isaiah chapter 25 and verse 7.
Yep.
It reads, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. You know, so through this hypocrisy of Esau with this administration, it's even further the hypocrisy. Is further shown the inner workings of Esau,
That's
right?
right.
He's being exposed even more,
That's right.
you know, by way of all of the standards that he had said that he was going to set with this administration, and now
Yep.
people are starting to make connections. Well, why are the tiny hat? Why?
Yeah.
I thought you said this was a problem, and now you siding with the problem.
Exactly.
You know, so it's it's just further showing, Esau is just bare.
There you go. He said he wasn't with the CBDC,
Right.
Yep.
and now he's pushing that.
Right.
You know, and it's been like that with every president, man. They always come up on these platforms talking about what they're going to do, and they do the exact opposite.
Right. But this administration is some lying motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know, you got people that'll respond, whether it's economists, whether it's people in certain industries that are being, attacked by way of funding, being stripped away, right? That'll hear Trump or one of his representatives in his administration say something, and they'll be like, "That's false as hell. That shit ain't. What are you talking about?"
Yep.
You know.
Mhm.
So that even shows forth his credibility is being lost.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Let me read some more. Unless you brothers got something, I'm going to read some more.
Yeah.
I just want to add to that point that Tazwan made, is that
Yep.
we're seeing what's happening right now is we're watching the results of that late stage capitalism take place, where the people with all the money are in control of politics right now, man. Right?
Yep.
So now all their decisions are being made to forward their dollars. You see people like RFK switching his stances. You see Trump switching his stances. You see the technocrats and the AI, overlords, so to speak, right, are in
Yep.
the forefront of the government policies. That's the end of the system as people know it, man.
That's it. Great point. Great point. All right.
Because if I could add to that, it's a quote from Meyer Amschel Bauer. It says, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws." And so, like we were bringing out, all these politicians, are funded or backed by Amalek, man.
Yep.
So like we brought out last night, Trump was pretty much, the perfect pawn for Amalek to pretty much, begin to initiate this technocracy, because we said, man, that fake assassination attempt when he got shot in the ear, that was a ritual of him pledging his allegiance to the small hats, and their reward, that gave him the presidency back, man. So
Yeah.
everything that is being shown, whether it's the governors and mayors, different politicians, all the way to the president, they all got APAC funding, or they're in the pocket of a small hat like JD Vance. All right,
Mhm.
he's funded by was it Peter Thiel, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Another small hat. So just showing you they got their hands on the backs of all these people, man.
Oh, yeah. They're the real ones that's controlling everything.
Mhm.
Right. But reading on a little bit more, a couple more points. It says MAGA Trump officials don't want to be questioned on pedophilia, foreign influence, APAC, and debt spending. It says what began as a populist uprising against corrupt elites has devolved into a personality cult where principle devolved into petulance, and the quest for justice became secondary to personal vendettas. The MAGA revolution is experiencing a violent internal rupture as its leader systematically attacks the few remaining lawmakers actually fighting for the America First agenda he once championed. Trump's attacks on Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, and NTG expose who Trump really is and what he's about. This break in the party exposes a facade that protected globalist interests in pedophiles while pretending to expose them. See that?
It's that facade got lifted.
That's it.
Everybody's seeing through that shit now. Like, oh, you involved.
Yeah, you wanted up.
Been bamboozled.
You know different than the next one, right? It says in this rupture, independent thinkers like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens are questioning foreign influence in the MAGA government and calling out MAGA leaders for trying to cover up human trafficking and pedophilia. They now face coordinated efforts to cancel their platform and exclude them from public discourse, not by the left wing this time, but by the MAGA officials who to account, right? So as we've been speaking about this, there's been a lot of videos coming from Tucker and Candace, and who's the guy from Fresh and Fit again? Myron, right? All these podcast guys really going in on the tiny hats, man. All right, and then it came out from Candace Owens that she had got threats for her life, of being shot. So it's just a whole bunch of mess, man. And the rest reads on. We're not gonna read through it, but again, that's the main.
I got something real quick.
You got it, brother.
Con, because what you read about the thing about the MAGA splitting up. Another thing you want to check out too is that dude CK that got shot in the neck.
Yeah.
One of his last videos was him pretty much beginning to call out Amalek, and then coincidentally, right after that video came out is when he got shot. Supposedly. So that just showing you that Esau is beginning to wake up, to what Amalek is doing. So real quick, this is Isaiah 19:2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. So these Edomites still, are on Trump's side, all right, fighting against the Edomites that now have woken up to the bullshit, because really, like you said yesterday, that Epstein list really was like the catalyst to really tear MAGA apart, because now that these Trumpers or Trumpsters know that their president is in them files and it's freaky like that, a lot of that broke a lot of them, man. You had Alex Jones on the internet crying and shit, man.
Yeah, he was.
You had, different guys speaking out. Like I saw one video where you had this dude, he had called in and he was like, so what, Trump, molested a little girl. He was still, even though he did that shit, he was still pro Trump, man. He was like justifying, PDF, stuff, man.
Yeah.
So it's all messed up on both sides, man.
Yeah. Dude, these Edomites are finished, man. I don't know if you want something to add real quick.
No.
All right, this is Jeremiah 51:45. My people, go ye out of the midst of her and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. Yahweh Shem Rashai. Verse 46. And lest your heart faint and you fear for the rumor that should be heard in the land, a rumor should both come 1 year, and after that another year should come a rumor. Violence in the land, ruler against ruler. All right, so that's what's getting ready to happen. There's going to be much violence in the land, ruler against ruler. You're going to have certain states that are not going to abide by the laws that Trump puts in place, which is going to create more polarization. Okay, so again, America is divided right down the middle, man. All right, it can't be fixed, right? Last article here before we wrap this up. All right, just to finish it off. All right, this is from America's First Report. It says Digital Shadows: How Online Rage is Spawning Assassins targeting America's leaders. Right, because we were talking about this the other day as well. All right, people are being influenced from so-called, online content that's making them lash out against political figures. Right, so you already know where that's going. So it says the assassination of CK in Utah this September sent shockwaves through the nation, revealing a disturbing pattern of violence fueled by hitting the internet. Right? This is why they got to control the narrative. Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was gunned down during his event at Utah Valley University in Orem on September 10th, 2025. Right? It goes into all of that. Let's jump down a little bit because we know what happened with CK, they had his TV turned off, right? It says the department, let's jump down here. Slovakia. Homeland Threat Assessment warns of a persistently high T-ism risk in the U.S. with lone actors responsible for 93% of fatal T-ist attacks in the West over the last 5 years. According to a report from Vision of Humanity, mass shootings often share these traits, amplified by years of societal strain in the pandemic and economic fallout to fears over AI and political division. Last point. It says, we lived through years of anxiety, the pandemic, job loss, now fears about AI, add deep political polarization. And you get people online being told they're worthless and dismissed by society. Some decide to act. Balboni said, act. Former FBI investigator Bill Daly draws parallels to ISIS recruitment. Quote, their reasons for being radicalized are often very similar to what we saw with ISIS recruits, a mix of ideology, personal grievance, and a search for belonging. It doesn't always happen overnight. These are breadcrumbs, small behavioral changes that build over time as they find validation in online communities. You see that? So if you could read between the lines, all right, they're saying again that people are being radicalized through the content that they're hearing on the internet. So who is that going to tie back to? The prophet. All right. So like the scriptures say, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, right? So people, more and more people are going to rise up and crash out. Okay, you're going to see more of these false flag shootings for them to use that as an excuse to bring in, you know, the Palantir. We got to see who's pro-American, who's really for the system, who those who are not, get them out of the way, you know. So all this stuff is fueling okay, a more technocratic type of society, right? You know. What's the guy?
I got a precept.
You got it.
This is Second Esdras 15, and I start at 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands to point. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And that's essentially what you were reading with this article.
Yep.
All right. Because Esau is creating an environment to where he's really setting the common people up against the leaders. He wants that civil unrest to take place to where we start seeing, the people lash out. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen the report of the 2 National Guard people that got shot.
Yep.
So that just added, fuel to the fire. All right. The Trump so-called assassinations that was going on before he won the election, CK, and it's just leading into, Candace Owens said what she said. We're getting to that point to where they're trying to manufacture this sedition to where these people lash out. Trump did that video on Twitter. I remember y'all saw that where the nigga pretty much was flying over the protesters and he shitted on them. He was telling them, like, look, y'all don't matter, man. That's only
yeah. Yeah. And I want to add on to you real quick, because you had made mention about the 2 National Guards that got shot yesterday, right? So I had a screenshot of the video from CNN. 2 National Guards been shot in their White House, suspect in custody and severely wounded, right? So I saw this comment at the bottom here, if you can read it. This person said, "Oh, another government staged false flag event, huh?" He says, so they can push AI pre-crime, AI biometric surveillance, gun control, and put more armed troops into our cities, martial law under the guise of protecting citizens. Let me guess, the suspect had a manifesto and was online spreading hate speech and conspiracy. Same shit all over again. So again, like we talk about, every time something goes down, people are on it right away.
Yep.
Right? They know what's going to happen next. So I thought that was a good comment by him. That's why I had, had screenshotted it. But this is exactly what's getting ready to happen, man. All of this shit is tacky. You know, so they got to do what they got to do to bring in this this AI, you know, technocratic system, man, where everything is surveilled and watched. They know where you at. All right, you know, they have the what's it called, the iris scans, the chip, right? This is where it's at. You know, anything you want to add in or not?
Kind of real quick.
No.
Just land back on that point. You had the founder of Oracle, Larry Ellison. He was at a financial analyst meeting last September, and this I'm quoting from an article on Fortune. The header reads, or the title of the article: Larry Ellison once predicted citizens will be on their best behavior amid constant reporting. It says, at Oracle's financial analyst meeting last September, he predicted artificial intelligence will help process the vast amounts of footage recorded by cameras placed on everything from car dashboards and front doors to security systems and cops. We're going to have supervision. Every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And if there's a problem, AI will report that problem and report it to the appropriate person.
There you go.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we are constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
There you go. What that person said.
Yeah.
Right in the comment section. Exactly what he said. This is all a ploy to push that AI biometric surveillance, man. Gun control, all of that. Martial law, police state. All right, as we talked about earlier. This is why they already have the troops deployed, because they know there's going to be resistance. People are going to bug out. The dish of the minutes we just read in that 2 Ezra 15. All right. So there's no turning back. There's no fixing it. There's no healing for Babylon. It's over, man. Okay. It's being made plain unto you. Right. So that's pretty much the point. Unless bros want to add anything else, man. You know.
I got
You got anything? Yep.
Mark 3:24 in the NLT. It said the kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. You know, straight to the point, because that's essentially the state that America is getting back to. It's where Esau is going to pretty much create a civil war, and that's the sign to let us know that this place is up out of here.
He's out of there. Get him out of there. You know.
Yeah.
Corner Wife, you got anything you want to add real quick?
Real quick. I just looked up how 2 Ezra 15 and 15 aligns with the coming technocracy. So it says, nation shall rise up against nation. The fracture creates a vacuum that the technocrats fill. The technology grows when political institutions fail. The public loses trust in elected leaders. People see technology as a more reliable problem solver than government. Mm-hmm. It says, there shall be sedition.
Salaki, because that's what Esau was doing. All right, like I was listening to the News and Prophecy from the brother Ayashimov earlier, and they was going into about how pretty much all forms of government they're replacing with AI. They're doing away with big pharma so that the AI can pretty much give you a juice that's mandated, you know, for your body. They're doing away with the police because, like you said, the pre-crime, every aspect of what keeps the society governed, they're going to replace with AI, man. So that just made me think about that when we read that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It says polarization in the U.S. has made governance nearly impossible. Gridlock, contested elections, and constant scandals erode public faith, right? Which we see with the Epstein situation. It says people increasingly turn to AI, algorithms, and experts to solve what politicians can't. There shall be sedition among men. When disorder spreads, governments typically respond with stronger control systems. It says this looks like expansion of facial recognition, predictive policing algorithms, real-time surveillance through cameras, drones, and AI, internet censorship and content moderation, digital monitoring of protests and political groups. It says public fear of unrest makes people more willing to accept security over freedom. So what we're seeing right now is them establishing that system, right, where people are going to be more and more willing to give over that control, man, to give over their freedoms in order to have that so-called safety, man.
Yep. That's it, man. What more can we say? You know, the rap, you know, America cannot be fixed. You want to add anything? That's it, man. So we'll leave it right there, man. But we pray that this live lesson was edifying, man. It's a wrap. Like they say, read the room, man.
Right.
Facts.
Look what the hell is going on, man. All right. But hey, pray this lesson was edifying. We'll close out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who taught us the truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect.
Shalom.
Shalom. Yes, sir. Let me go ahead and end the stream. There we go. Wada Akim.